to you all. So yesterday we were discussing about the very fundamentals of the soil mechanics. If you have any questions, you are most welcome to ask me. So before we begin our regular class, so anybody willing to pose some question? So do you have any questions? Okay. So in the last class, we were discussing about different types of the test that normally be conducted on geomaterials like concrete, steel, and soil. So when you talk about the soil, so we discussed about that instead of the compressive or tensile strength, so we always determine the shear strength of the soil. So I have given the reason. So we also in detail discuss about why should we go for shear strength of the soil. So today, let us also try to discuss a few more fundamentals of the soil mechanics. So which I don't know whether you might have been taught properly or not. So one of the things is, can anyone define what is consistency limits?
So consistency limit is the limit what water content. Uh, so when soil, I mean, it's a boundary of two type of soil condition with water content.
Okay, any other
Say
definition? Yeah, good, good. So any other definition? Muni?
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, it is the boundary which differs, means which separates the different states of the limit.
Okay, so can you list out first of all what are the different consistency limits?
Yes, sir.
a liquid limit,
Liquid limit,
plastic limit,
plastic limit,
Limit, plastic limit,
plastic limit,
shrinkage
semi-solid,
limit.
and
so
shrinkage limit.
plasticity index, shrinkage limit, so on and so forth. Okay, but still we didn't understand what is the fundamental meaning of a consistency limits. So one thing is clear, when I say limit means there is some boundary, as you are saying, but there is another terminology that is consistency. Consistency means it directly indicates the state of a soil sample or the state of a material, because the same terminology of consistency is valid for almost every kind of a material, although a few material may be showing the consistency, may not be showing the consistency, so that we will discuss about. But consistency means, so it is a state of a material. So at that particular, say in our soil mechanics viewpoint, at that moisture content. Or other way around, so in your soil mechanics, you might have read that it is the change in state of the soil sample as you change the moisture content in it. Okay, so there are two things which are very fundamental. So consistency changes with change in moisture content. Change in moisture content. But if you look at the validity of the terminology moisture content, it is valid for fine grained soil as well as coarse grained soil. Fine grained soil and coarse grained soil. True or not? Is this true first of all? Is the moisture content valid
So
for both fine grained soil and coarse grained soil?
Yes, sir.
So
Most of you are very passive.
I
Girls,
think for fine grained soils, it is okay, but for coarse grained soil, I don't think moisture content.
okay, okay. Girls, I'm not hearing you from at all.
Oh,
Yeah, you should speak out. So this is so unless you speak out, so we do not know whether you are really understanding or not. So
uh,
don't be scared.
in case of fine grain soil, that is sir, clay means we have to consider the moisture content is the important parameter.
Okay.
But we can, but in case of coarse grain soil, moisture content I think is not the important parameter. But we consider moisture content in both the fine grain and coarse grain.
Okay, very good. So in a sense, the moisture content terminology is valid for every kind of a soil. But whereas the moisture content changes, is there any change in consistency of the fine grained soil? Is there any change in the consistency of the coarse grained soil?
Only change in consistency of fine grained soil, not in coarse grain.
So you have read that there is a possibility of the change in consistency of the fine grained soil as you change the moisture content. But why this change happens? Because water is a water, soil particle is a soil particle. Why do you think the consistency of the fine grained soil changes while it is not for the coarse grained soil?
So volume changes.
Okay, so you are introducing another terminology. So in case of fine grained soil, so there is a volume change. So do you think the volume change will not occur in case of the coarse grained soil?
Sir, in some
Sir,
coarse
in
grain
fine
soil, it will
grain,
affect. Sir, up to 425 micron, it will affect.
Okay. So now to understand all these things, you also need to understand so in detail about your
Sir,
yeah.
sir, in coarse grain soil, if volume changes, then it is occupied by air.
It is occupied by air. Okay. 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 So let us try to understand. See, first of all, so let us look into the soil classification system. So in soil mechanics point of view. So soil classification. Okay, so here when we talk about different soil classification, so we dominantly deal with so gravels. What is the size fraction range for gravels? What is the particle size range?
so 4.75 to 80
4.75.
mm.
So 4.75 to so 80 millimeter. Okay. So then below gravel there is a sand. So what is the particle size range?
4.75 to 75 micron.
So 4.75 to 0.075 millimeter. Okay. So below sand, so there is a silt. What is the particle size?
75 micron to 2 micron.
0.002 millimeter. And what about clay? So less than,
Less than 2 micron.
yeah, less than 0.002 millimeter. So this is the typical soil classification system that we have undergone. So during your UG program. Okay, now let us look at closely. See, when somebody has said the gravel range is from 4.75 to 80 millimeter, how did they decide the 4.75 as the lower case and 80 millimeter as the upper case? Is there any basis? Why should 4.75 only? Why not some other fraction size? Any idea?
So it is mentioned in IS code, na, sir.
Yeah, that is true. See, all this classification system is given in the IS system, but there should be some rationale behind proposing why 2 microns, why 75 microns, why 4.75 millimeter. Why not other sizes?
Maybe the properties change in this range.
Okay, what is the attribute of a typical virtue of clay material? Yeah, you know.
Sir, clay have flocculated structures.
Now that comes much later. You try to understand very fundamental way. What is the typical attribute of a clay? What clay exhibits a kind of a property? What silt
Low
exhibits?
permeability.
Pardon me?
Low permeability.
Charge.
Yeah, charge.
So corrosion.
Clay particles have negative charge. So this is the most important. So if you look at the rationale behind proposing the maximum or minimum limits of the particle size, there is a certain engineering criterion. One of such identification system is if the particle size. So, but if you look at maybe in agriculture or some other classification system, so this is as for Unified Soil Classification System, USCS. But if you look at other soil classification system, you can find that the clay fraction starts from the 5 micron instead of the 2 micron. Maybe that USDA or something. Okay, but so whether it is a 2 micron or 5 micron, doesn't matter. But when the particle size reaches to 2 micron or it is lesser than that one, so which normally be designated as a clay material, but these size fraction as a virtue of having a negative charge on the particle surface. Why? What is the reason for negative charge on the particle surface?
So due to presence of the clay minerals.
Okay. Good. So due to the presence, but clay itself is a mineral, na?
Diffuse double layer.
Diffuse double layer, okay. But even you have to go even behind that. It's a very fundamental. You might have read it yourself. Yeah, please. The negative charge is because of what?
So there is some bond, na? So covalent bond or something, primary, secondary something bond. So some attraction force is there.
So
Due
the
to
negative
molecule.
charge is basically attributed to, there is something called as isomorphous substitution. So just
Yes,
look
sir.
at isomorphous substitution. So this substitution happens at the structure level of the clay particle. So that we will discuss maybe in the tomorrow's class or something. So the negative charge exists on the clay surface, but this is only on the face or edge.
So negative charge on the faces, sir.
Okay, suppose if you look at any clay particle, so this is a typical flaky say. So at the edge there is a positive charge. So at the face there is a negative charge. Okay. So at the edge there is a positive charge. So at the face there is a negative charge. So this negative charge is inbuilt in the clay particle. So because of the reason of the isomorphous substitution. I will explain in detail about this substitution maybe in the tomorrow's class. So this isomorphous substitution happens at the crystal structure level. Why I am specifically emphasizing about the crystal structure level is the substitution can also happen on the surface of the particle. Suppose if the substitute, that is called as a replacement. Substitution or the replacement. So just to distinguish between the replacement at the structure level, it is called as a substitution. But if it happens on the surface, that is called as a exchange. or replacement. So if the substitution happens at the crystal structure level, that is called as a isomorphous substitution. But when there is a change at the structure level, but when there is a replacement at the surface level, the implications are different. So one of the basic implications are, suppose if the substitution is happening at crystal structure level, that gives some kind of a total negative charge to the each and every clay particle. So this is a fundamental implication of isomorphous substitution. Okay, so other things maybe we will discuss later. So now this is the negative charge. So that means when they have done the engineering classification, so they might have understood that the particles which size range is 2 microns or lesser than this size. So these particles are started exhibiting some kind of the charge, which may be a negative charge. So that's why these particles are called as a colloidal particles. So there is another reason also. Colloidal means they will not settle if you put these particles in water. They will simply float in the particle. That's why if you have done any hygrometer test on silt and clay fraction, so the silt fraction immediately settles, while the clay fraction dominantly floats within the water. So if you see any discoloration of the water, that is basically attributed to the floating of the clay particles. That floating condition so is because of that kind of the particles are called as a colloidal particles. Then above the 2 microns up to 0.075, so it is called as a silt. But there is another, the fundamental thing, that is all clay particles are flaky in shape. All clay particles are flaky in shape. But when it comes to silt, what is the particle size of the particle shape of the silt? Any idea?
The plate shape. The plate shape.
Plate shape. Okay. So what about the gravel and sand? So for gravel, normally we do not designate any kind of the shape, but preferably spherical. But we cannot, because the size is hoping 80 millimeter. So there is no point in saying that 80 millimeter particle of specific size. Okay, so leave it. And sand, what is the particle, typical particle shape of a sand particle?
Angular.
Angular, no, that is a different terminology. So like
Sir, rounded.
It is called as a spherical. Okay, so these are assumed spherical, not exact spherical. All sand particles are assumed spherical. Okay, so the particle size range between 4.75 to 0.075. They are predominantly spherical in shape. When the particle size is lesser than 2 microns, they have a negative charge, as well as the particle shape is of the flaky. Now, while when it comes to the sand, don't you think they don't have any charge? Do they have a charge or no?
So partially,
Partially, okay.
because it reaches to 2 micron, na, sir.
No, sand will not reach to 2 micron. Silt will reach to 2 micron.
No, sir, I am talking about silt.
Okay, silt. And what is the particle shape of the silt? So even this one also. So in fact, the silt doesn't have any specific shape of the particles. Rather, it is also assumed spherical. But if you take out the degree of sphericity between sand and silt, so almost most of the particles of the sand are highly spherical in nature, while silt, it composes of even other geometries as well. Okay, so although we say it is spherical, that's why whenever you see any kind of a literature on the silt, you might not be seeing any kind of a designation, so in terms of the shape of the silt particle. While on the other hand, silt is said to be a perfect example for non-plastic material. Non-plastic material. If you take by sieving, the particles which are passing through 75 microns, retaining on 2 microns. And if you try to determine the plasticity index on the soil fraction, they exactly show zero plasticity. So that's why the silt is a perfect and idealistic example for the non-plastic material. But you may argue, sir, when we see any particle and whose particles are passing through the 75 microns, so in the literature, many people have means recorded the plasticity index value. So how do you answer this one?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Suppose if you take out any book or a paper and if you read carefully, for a particle fractions of less than 75 microns, many people have reported the plasticity index value. But right now I am saying the particle fraction lying between 75 micron to 2 micron is a classic example for the non-plastic material.
Sir, it depends on moisture content of the soil, na sir?
Yeah. How does it
And
matter?
how can we say non-plastic, sir? Maybe possible if it have higher moisture content, then we will get a higher liquid limit, and subsequently we get plastic limit. So we can find the plasticity index, and
Sir, it
from
may be possible. Sir, it may be possible that silt is contains some clay particles. That's why some many reported.
Yeah. So one answer should be, as I told, if you take the exact particle fraction between 75 micron to 2 micron, they should not exhibit any kind of a plastic behavior. However, so when you take any particle in general, which is passing through 75 microns, they normally exhibit some amount of the plasticity, maybe in the form of a liquid limit or plasticity. That's primarily because of there is certain percentage of the clay fraction might be in it. That may be the reason they are showing very maybe the plasticity index of 5 or below 10 or below 5, so on and so forth. Okay, so that may be it. That means so this the particle fraction of less than 75 microns, unless otherwise they have a small amount of the clay, they will never ever exhibit any kind of a plastic behavior. So these are very fundamental. So as a geotechnical engineer, you must remember, okay, forever in your life. Okay, so now we understood. So the shape is different for the sand, the shape is different for the silt, shape of the particle is different for clay. Then another fundamental attribute of clay is all clay particles default exhibits the negative charge. And what about the sand and trees? Do they exhibit any kind of a charge on their surface?
Sir, in sand and gravel, here gravitational force is predominant than the interparticle force. That's why charge is neglected here.
That's why charges neglected here. Okay, so no problem. Then we can say that only clay particles have a charge, while remaining all other particles do not have a charge. Okay, now this could be one of the fundamental reasons for demarcating a specific size for classification of the clay particles. Is it understand now? So the particles of lesser than 2 microns, they exhibit negative charge, as well as the particle shapes are different. So that's why they are called as a clay. That's why the 2 microns has been earmarked as the upper limit for the clay. While why 75 microns? Why not 90 micron or 100 micron or 150 micron or above particle size? Any logical answer?
Sir, due to its visibility to naked eye.
Perfect. So Usually, our human eye or the naked eye can able to see the particle size of approximately 0.075 millimeter. So below this size, we can't able to see it. So this could be one of the reasons they have earmarked for SIL 0.075. But so the lowest particle size is 2 microns. I told you the reason for earmarking the 2 microns. So this is the reason for the silt. While sand, so this is based on the spherical nature of the particles. So as long as the particles are up to approximately 5 millimeter or 4.5 millimeter, they found to be typically spherical in nature. So above that one, so the sphericity usually misses. So they will have some random shapes. So like they may be like more of angular particles with more of angular nature, subangular, so on and so forth. Okay, so because these particles are even significantly large in size. So this is the reason. So these maximum and minimum, the limits are being imposed on the classification system. There might be other reasons as well. So please read through. I'm just giving a small hint about why these particular fraction size has been imposed as the maximum or minimum. So if you look at any the soil mechanics book or any papers, you will easily come to know that why the 80 millimeter, why the 4.75 millimeter, why 75, why 2 microns, so on and so forth. Now, but the understanding of this one is very fundamental to understand all remaining soil mechanics. So that we will try to understand. Now, the one aspect is complete. In fact, two aspects are completed. One is safe, next is charge.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, can you please repeat for 4.75 as a boundary level?
So, see, up to a particle size of approximately 4 to 5 millimeter, they maintain perfect sphericity, that roundness of the particle. So behind that, so mostly that sphericity misses. So they will show different shape. Is it
Okay,
clear?
means sir, we are classified according to shape, na sir?
Not only shape, that's what I'm saying. There might be more than one reason for classification of these soils. See, for example, here it is based on the charge. Okay, while similarly in terms of the silt, it is based on the visuality of the soil sample. So because we can see the particles up to 75 microns only with the naked eye. So whatever we can able to see up to that point, we have classified as a sand. But even up to 75 microns also, between 4.75 to 75, the particles predominantly and large fraction of the particles they maintain sphericity, that spherical nature of the particle. While that sphericity misses if the particle size is lesser than 70 microns or above 4.75 millimeter. Okay, so now let us come to the sand or silt or the gravel. So first, one thing is true, they don't have any kind of a charge on their particle surfaces, sand, silt or clay. Silt is said to be perfect and classic example of the non-plastic material. While when it comes to the sand, is it a plastic material or non-plastic material?
Non-plastic.
Non-plastic.
Okay, non-plastic material. But like silt, this cannot be an ideal example for the non-plastic material. Okay, it is only the silt which is example as ideal non-plastic material. Silt, sand in general, it is said to be a coarse grained soil. Is it true? Sand is a coarse grained soil along with the gravel. So gravel and sand are coarse grained soils. So 4.75 to 75 microns. So these particle size range we designate as coarse grained soil. 75 microns or up to 2 microns they are called as a fine grained soils. There is another terminology, a cohesive soil and non-cohesive soil. So where this demarcation starts for cohesive and non-cohesive? At what particle fraction size we can say above is cohesive, below is non-cohesive?
4.75.
4.75.
Sir, 75 micron.
So below 75 micron is
Cohesion.
cohesive. Okay. So above 75 microns is non-cohesive. Any other answer? I guess it
I
is 2
think of
microns.
clay.
So the particles which are lesser than 2 microns, they are called as a cohesive soils. The particles which are above 2 microns, they are called as a non-cohesive soils. So refer to your soil mechanics carefully. So this is a fundamental distinction between coarse grain, fine grain, cohesive and non-cohesive. The cohesion starts from clay fraction onward only. So the cohesion is not valid for the silt or the sand. So they are passive to water in fact. So there is no interaction of water with silt or sand or the gravel. While there is an interaction. Yeah.
Sir, here you have told about purely cohesive, no, sir?
There is nothing like a pure cohesive or cohesive. When I said cohesive, that's it. Pure cohesive is
Okay,
different
sir.
technology.
But the silt also possesses cohesion, na?
Really?
Sir, some phi value, some C values.
Some pi value, some C value. Acha. Okay, anyway. I don't know. Just check it. Check any soil mechanics book. Okay, no problem. So check and let me know. Okay. So the other way around is, now let us try to understand what happens if I add water to the clay particle. What happens if I add water to the silt, sand and gravel? Just imagine. So let me tell the other thing, one of the most fundamental, that is difference between the consistency limits, because we have another 5 minutes. Okay. See, how to understand the consistency and for what kind of the soils the consistency is valid. So we say the consistency is valid for the fine grained soils, it is not valid for the coarse grained soils. Okay, so now just to demonstrate this, what I'm doing is I'm taking as a layman example. You try to take same material. See, for example, I'm taking the rice grains and rice flour. So from this I can make a 2 points very clear. For example, if I take 1 kg of rice grains and convert into 1 kg of a flour, 1 kg of the flour, is there any change in specific gravity in it? If I change the particle fraction from grain to flour, will there be any change in the specific gravity?
Yes, sir. Specific gravity decreases.
Okay, specific gravity decreases or increases?
Sir, decreases.
Okay, decreases. Then, what about the porosity and void ratio?
The
Void
void
ratio
ratio will
increases.
increase.
How do you understand that the void ratio is increasing?
So as the surface area increasing,
So surface area
number of
increases,
particles
void ratio
decreasing.
increases. Okay, just imagine. So during your childhood, so you might have seen all these things. There is nothing great. What I'm doing is I'm taking 1 kg of the rice grains. Suppose if I initially put in some container, they occupy some volume. Say this is H1. If I convert this 1 kg of the rice grain to flour, what will happen to the volume? Will it increase in the container or will it decrease?
The decrease. So
Increase, sir.
Huh?
Increase, sir.
It
Volume
increases.
increase.
The volume increases. Probably you have not gone to any flour mill or something. Okay, just try it. Maybe you can try today also. So take 1 kg of the rice Okay, put it in some container. So identify its height. Go to the flour mill, convert into powder form, put it in the same container, just measure the change in height. The height always increases. Okay, so H2 is greater than H1. Okay, there is a change in height, but what is the remain constant between these two?
Volume of solids.
Volume of the solids. So the volume of the solids remains constant between H1 and H2. So now based on this one, there is a change in the volume, but the volume of the solids remain constant. So if you look at the fundamental definition of the void ratio. So how do you define the void ratio?
It is the ratio between volume of void to the volume of solid.
Volume of voids upon volume of the solids. So let us look at it. There is no change in the denominator. However, there is an increase in the numerator. Okay, because if you look at the height, so it is converted from H1 to H2. That means your numerator value is higher, while the denominator is remains same. So it attributes that, suppose if I consider the grains as a coarse grain soil, I consider this as a coarse grain soil and flour as a fine grain soil. So it is ideal to make such hypothesis because the particle of the flour is almost in micron, while the particle of the grain is almost in millimeter. So it is sensible to make or attribute rice grain to coarse grain soil and flour to the fine grain soil. So as you are converting from grain to the flour, that is coarse grain soil to the fine grain soil. So there is a change in volume. That volume is in the form of a volume of the voids. So this is the reason the void ratio of the fine grain soils is always higher than the void ratio of the coarse grain soil. Is it clear? Because in your soil mechanics, you have read these statements, but nowhere you have seen the proof how it increases. I thought, so I will make you understand permanently. So what is the rationale behind increase in the void ratio? So when you convert from coarse grain soil to the fine grain soil. Okay, so this is simple small demonstration about the increase in void ratio. Now another thing is the consistency. So another important thing is consistency. Now what I will do is, so I will add to this 1 kg of water approximately 500 ml of water. 500 ml of water. Similarly, same amount of water I will also add to the rice flour. Now do they make same consistency?
No, sir.
Huh? Loud.
No, sir.
So what kind of consistency change that you observe? Suppose if you take out small soil grains along with the water, and if you take out between your thumb and forefinger, how do you feel? And similarly, you added 500 ml of water to 1 kg of the rice flour. What it becomes? Do you expect any kind of interaction between the rice grain and water?
Sir, in fine grain, we'll find sticky nature.
Yes. So in flour, the moment you add the water, it will be converted into dough. All right. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Are you true or not? It seems none of you are helping your mother in the kitchen. So just go to your kitchen. So whenever your mother is preparing atta, so try to observe. If not rice, you take out the wheat grains. There's nothing matters. Either you consider rice or wheat, almost they behave in a similar way. So there may be some differences, but in terms of our terminology, they behave in a similar way. No need to bother. So if I add water to the flour, it will be converted into dough. But what about rice grains? They will not be. Grains are like a grains only. They won't be converted to any form. Okay, so that means here the consistency of the dough, here the consistency of the grains only. Although there was no change in the volume of the soil, there was no change in volume of the water. I did not change. I have added 1 kg of the, I have 500 ml of water to the 1 kg of the rice grain, 500 ml of water to the 1 kg of the rice flour. I did not change anything. Rather, the end product is different. Here it became a dough. So here it became it retained as a rice grains only. So that means there is change in consistency of coarse grain soil and there is a consistency in the fine grain soil. Okay, so this is how you need to understand the consistency. So the wide ratio, porosity, so on and so forth. Okay, so I will stop it here. So maybe we can discuss in detail about all these things in the tomorrow's class. So again, I repeat. So go through some soil mechanics book. Try to understand all these fundamentals because unless otherwise you understand, you are going to become a master student. So you need to understand all these very basics. Without these, you can't able to execute your even MDP project properly, or for that matter, when you join in some job. So you need to understand the material behavior when you design any geotechnical structure, or when you design any superstructure of the soil. Without understanding all these things, so there is always possibility of making a mistake. Okay, so see you tomorrow at 10 o'clock.